Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I am here to share with you my September wrap-up. So once again, I did not do any weekly reads updates, so I'm going to have to talk about all the books that I read. Well, not all of them. I did 3 books for a reading vlog, so I'm not going to talk about those. I'm just going to link that vlog. One book, I have a dedicated review coming up soon, so I'm not going to talk about that one. And then the other one was a book club pick, which I will link a live show discussion for, so I'm not going to talk about that one. So really, there's not a lot for me to talk about. So let's just get into it and give you my ratings and my thoughts. I had one 6-star read in September, and that was actually a reread for me, and it was 4 Years Trapped in My Mind Palace by Johan Twiss. I will be doing a dedicated review for this coming soon, so I'm not going to share my full thoughts on it, but just know it's 6 stars. It's a reread for me. It's the 3rd time I've read this book, and every time I've read this, I've given it 6 stars. So this is about Aaron, who is a 14-year-old boy, and Solomon, who is a 73-year-old man. They end up being roommates in a retirement home together because Aaron is completely paralyzed and Solomon is dealing with dementia. And when they become roommates, they experience this very impossible, life-changing experience between the two of them. This book is exceptional if you're looking for a platonic relationship. If you are into historical fiction, this has some great historical elements to it. And it has a little bit of whimsy too. But be on the lookout for my dedicated review of this coming soon. And this was one of the few actual physical books that I read this month. I had one 5-star, and that was Sister Song by Lucy Holland. This was in a reading vlog I did where I read books about sisters for my sister's birthday. So if you want to hear more about this book, please go check out that reading vlog. It will be linked down below. I did have a physical copy of this, but I did purchase the audio through Libro FM because I just wasn't in a mood to read physical. But this is a retelling of a Scottish folklore, and it revolves around 3 siblings whose lives will change the way that Britain evolves. And this book just surprised me because when I started reading it, I thought it was going to be a 3-star, and then there became a point where I was reading it, it became a 5-star. So do check out my thoughts in this vlog. Highly recommend it. Going somewhat out of order, but just to keep my vlog books together, I had one 1.5-star read, and that was Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. So it's weird that both sister books I read for this vlog, the author's name was Lucy. That was interesting. But yeah, this was... go watch this vlog. It's very hard for me to describe. It was disturbing. That's how I can describe this book. Disturbing, depraved, fucked up. Yeah, 1.5-star. Don't recommend it. And I also got the audiobook for this through Everand. And once again, I just want to say thank you to whoever used my Everand referral code. I'm still getting free months of Everand, so I did not have to pay for any of my Everand audiobooks this month. I really appreciate it. If you would like to get 1 month free of Everand, you could use my link down in my description. It's always there. And you get 1 month free, I get 1 month free. It's great. I then had one 4.5-star read, and that was A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. This was an audio arc I got through NetGalley. This is about Hecate, or Kate as she is known, and she lives a very secluded life as a hedge witch. She just does her thing. She goes around, she picks up her herbs, she delivers things to the local town, but she pretty much stays to herself until her sister asks her to host their annual Halloween dinner. And an old crush comes back into her life seeking sanctuary within her coven. And when all this happens, she discovers a book that is written all about black magic, and it's written in her mother's handwriting. And she discovers the secrets about her mother that her coven has been keeping from her. If you are looking for a great fall read, highly recommend this one. It had immaculate fall, October, Halloween vibes. It's literally a story that counts down the days until Halloween. There's pumpkin carvings, there's pumpkin festivals. It has a little bit of a Hades and Persephone element to it, which that was a thing that I was kind of weary about because I'm not a big fan of Hades and Persephone inspirations because they're all so similar. But this one actually I didn't mind because it felt like inspiration without being a direct retelling of Hades and Persephone. I loved all the witchy magic involved, from earth magic to tarot to necromancy. her crush is a necromancer and he deals in shadow magic, and she thinks that's a very dark element, and she learns that it's not quite as dangerous as she was led to believe. I loved the family dynamics. I loved the Halloween traditions. This book just had all of the fall vibes. My one and only complaint that I could think of about this book was I wish the audio narration had been dual cast narrated. I liked the audio narration. It was done fine, but I just think it would have been just that slight 5-star if it had been dual cast. But yes, if you are looking for something to read in October, here you go. I then had 2 4-star reads, including Wild Scottish Fortune by Trisha O'Malley. This was an audio that I got through NetGalley. I have read all of the books in this series via audiobook and love them. So in this, we are following Orla and Fitz. Orla is a contractor, I believe. She's a female working in a male-dominated industry. And Fitz, or maybe Orla owns the business and Fitz is the contractor. I can't remember. But anyway, they meet on this job site when they are renovating the castle that everybody comes to Lauren Bray to visit. And they are complete opposites of one another. She grew up very poor and she has a lot of insecurities about abandonment. He grew up very wealthy and he has some insecurities about loyalty because his father cheated on his mother and left him to deal with that baggage. But they're drawn together, they have a connection, and throughout this story, their romance develops as Orla is discovering that she is a member of the Order of Caledonia and she has a ghost familiar. This wasn't my favorite within this series. It didn't have the humor and the chemistry that the previous books had for me. I still loved the found family. I loved the Scottish setting. I loved the audio narration. I loved that this one I got introduced to a new Scottish folklore in the Green Lady, who is like Orla's familiar pretty much. But still highly recommend this series if you're looking for a contemporary paranormal set in Scotland with a little whimsy. I love this series. My other 4-star was 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. This is the other book that I read physically this month. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me at the moment. This is a book that my friends, we each picked a book to pass around to annotate for one another. And this was one of my friend's choices, so I annotated it and I sent it off to the next friend to annotate. But this is a YA contemporary about 2 teenagers with cystic fibrosis who end up meeting in the hospital, and a romance develops between them despite the fact that they can't touch one another. They have to stay 5 feet apart. I liked that these characters had depth. The story wasn't entirely about them falling in love and having their romance. They had a little bit more going on. I liked that I learned something about cystic fibrosis. I liked the family dynamics in here, and I liked that this had a bit of a bittersweet ending. It doesn't exactly end on a happily ever after, but it ends with a hopeful ever after. Really, the only thing I didn't like about this book was it was angsty teenagers. They didn't really think through their actions all that much, and they didn't communicate the best. I mean, they're teenagers, what do you expect? But they still annoy me. I mean, even as an adult, it still annoys me. It annoys me when adults do that, so it's going to annoy me when the teenagers do that. But other than that, it was a fine book, 4 stars. If you like YA contemporaries and you've never read it, I recommend it. I know there's a movie, but I'm not going to watch that. But yeah, everybody who read it within our friend group, they seem to all come to the general consensus that it was a pretty good read. So recommend it, just not one that I would ever reread or anything that's a favorite. I then had one 3.5 star, and that was Insatiable by Meg Cabot. This is a book that my sister gave to me for Christmas, I believe. So I don't think I've ever read a Meg Cabot book. If I have, it was a long, long time ago. This is a contemporary paranormal about Mina, who is a screenwriter for a popular TV show. And when the competition starts writing vampire romance storylines, Mina is forced to do the same. And Mina does not want to do this because she is sick of seeing vampires in every media avenue. I want to say this was probably written around the time of Twilight, maybe. I get that sense. She doesn't want to write vampires. She doesn't even believe in vampires. However, the mysterious murders that are happening in New York City where women are being bitten and drained of their blood is causing her to maybe rethink the probability of vampires. And then she meets a mysterious stranger who her neighbors happen to know. He's this mysterious prince. And she's starting to come around to the fact that maybe vampires aren't just make-believe. So this was an interesting vampire romance story. It was something different from like the teen love triangle type things. It takes a approach of bringing Vlad and Dracula into the modern day. The mysterious stranger that she meets is actually, I think, the grandson of Dracula. He is the new prince of the vampires, and he wants them to behave themselves in polite society. But somebody's out here murdering women, and so he has to come to New York to deal with the problem where he meets Mina. So it was a very interesting concept. I liked that Mina has this ability to, when she meets somebody, she's able to tell when they are going to die. It sort of ties into her relationship that develops with the mysterious stranger whose name I can't remember. Her brother was the comedic relief of this story. He's unemployed, he's living with her, and he was just hilarious. I loved his character. It was very insta-lovey, and the audio narration of this was not good at all. If I wasn't interested in the story, I would have stopped listening to this audiobook, because she is an adult woman. She's in her late 20s, early 30s, I believe. And the audio narration made this sound like she was 15 years old. This was even classified as young adult on Storygraph, and it's not. It is adult. This is part of a series, but I have no desire to continue on with it because I do feel like the story was also dragged out. But it was fine. It wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't the best thing. I then had one 3-star read, and that was Downfall of a Princess by Marina Simcoe. This was an ebook that I got as an ARC from the author. This is about Ari, who she is trying to escape a sexual assault in the real world when she falls through a mirror and she ends up in this fantasy world where women are the rulers of this kingdom. She becomes the adopted princess of the queen and king of this kingdom. She knows that she has to do what is best for her kingdom. She loves this place, and that includes finding a husband, getting married, and having children. The only problem is she hasn't felt any sort of desire for a man because she experienced a lot of sexual assault when she was younger in the human realm. And the only man who seems to intrigue her within this world is this slave named Silas, who she defended when he was being beaten for a crime that he didn't commit. And in this world, the gender roles have been reversed. So if you think of like a historical romance, all the female roles that you see portrayed as women having to keep their virginity until they're married, women being the ones to raise the children, women not being able to have jobs, women not being included in discussions of politics or education or anything like that. All of that is totally reversed within this world. So it's the men who have to stay virgins. It's the men who aren't allowed to have jobs other than certain ones that don't really test their brains all that much. They're pretty much used for manual labor. They are the ones who have to raise the children of their same gender to become future husbands. They are the ones who are not included in discussions of politics and education and things like that. And Silas, being one of these men, he does have some sort of education that is beyond what the normal man has, but he isn't really valued as a citizen within this world. But she's attracted to him, and she knows that she needs to be the one to sort of train her new husband in the ways of romance and sex, but she's a virgin, so she needs help with that. So she enlists Silas to come in and take her virginity, pretty much teach her all about sex. I did not enjoy this Marina Simcoe book all that much. I liked that Marina took the opportunity to do something different in her fantasy world where she switched up those gender roles. Unique concept. Marina is always throwing in unique storylines into her stories, which I absolutely love. However, I did not love being in this world. I did not love that the men were so oppressed in this world, because I don't want to read books where women are that oppressed. So I don't want to read them where men are that oppressed either. I felt so bad for them in this story, because even her father, who is a king, he's like sneakily reading books about like the history of their world and math and stuff like that, and he's almost embarrassed to be caught reading those things by his daughter. And it was just so sad. The people who are born in this world, they have this unique ability called reflection, because she went through a mirror. And so when they have like strong emotions, they almost turn into a mirror themselves, and they sort of blend in with these surroundings as a way to like camouflage them from like embarrassment or anger or anything like that. I thought that was a really unique ability. And I loved that the female main character, Ari, she was adopted princess and she wore glasses. You don't see that a lot in fantasy romance, is female main characters who wear glasses. So there were some elements to the story that I liked, but overall I was just so saddened by the oppression of the male characters in this story. I didn't like it. I didn't feel the strongest chemistry between Salas and Ari. And this is a book that doesn't end happily ever after, because it is a duology. So I know Marina is going to write a sequel where hopefully that ends in a happy ever after. If you are somebody who really likes the idea of men being oppressed that much, you might really enjoy this. I did not. And I had one 2-star read, and that was sadly my Black Hat Book Coven book pick for the month, The Cottage Around the Corner by D.L. Soroya. This was Kristin's pick, and I thought I was going to love this. I got an e-arc from NetGalley, and this is about Charlie, who is a witch, and Fitz, who is a mage. So mages in this world, I'm not really sure, they pull from like themselves, their magic, whereas witches pull from like crystals, the earth, incantations, things like that. So they have very different ways of doing magic, and they have very different reactions to the amount of magic they use. So Charlie and her family run this witchy cottage, and Fitz moves into town and he runs this mage firm. And they are two opposing businesses in this small town. And when some curses suddenly befall this town, they have to put aside their rivalry and work together to try and save the people of this town. I wanted to love this, I really did, but unfortunately, my main problem with the story was the female main character was so annoying. I could not stand her. But that's all I'm going to say, because we do have a live show discussion, which I will link down in the description if you want to go hear mine and the other Coven members' thoughts on this book. But yeah, this wasn't a win for me. I had to push myself to finish it. At a point, I think I was 50% into this book. I wanted to DNF it. I really did. But I was like, no, it's an arc, and it's a book club book. You should really just push your way through it. So I was reading it 10% at a time. I was like, okay, I got to make it to 60%. Okay, tonight I got to make it to 70%. And it took me almost the entire month to finish this book. So, not enjoyable at all. Sorry, Kristin. So those were all the books that I read in September. Now let's do a really quick haul and unhaul for the month. So I am going to unhaul Insatiable. It was fine, it's just not one I would reread. I'm definitely going to unhaul Sister Maiden Monster, yikes. And I'm going to unhaul The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean M. Owl. I started listening to this on audio and I was so bored, oh my god, I DNF'd it. So I will have those listed on my Pango. If you are interested in those, be sure to check it out. It's always in the description. Now let's move on to my small haul. I did spend money on physical books this month. If you follow me on Instagram, I had a month. Squirrels were the main part of that month, and oh my god, I needed some retail therapy to deal with that circus. So I went to Barnes & Noble, my happy place, and I bought books. So first up, I bought The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. This just sounded like a cute story. It's about two people who are looking for this fantastical bird. I also bought Morbidly Yours, which cartoon cover, so you know that's a rarity, but I thought it sounded cute because I think one of them is they work at a cemetery. And that just speaks to me. And it's set in Scotland. No, it's not. It's Galway. So it's set in Ireland. My bad. And I don't read a lot of books set in Ireland. And then the last book that I picked up is Dreadful, which I don't even know what this book is about, quite honestly. I think it's about like a monster. I don't know. You know what sold me on it? the stenciled edges with the little skulls. And then I also purchased the Fairy Loot edition of Where the Library Hides, What the Library Hides, the sequel to What the River Knows. I have the Owl Crate edition of the first book, so I wanted the second book to match. So I purchased that this month too, although I won't get it until later. All in all, I spent a total of this amount on physical books this month. So not great, but not horrible. Could have been worse. That was my September wrap up. Let me know down in the comments what was your favorite book of September, but if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a book stack emoji? That's all I could think of at the moment. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, good luck on your October reading. Bye!